Hey everybody, this is a long overdue video of my wife's tank here. I started a Chemiclean treatment on this tank a while ago, and this is actually going to finally be the follow-up video. One of the reasons I like Chemiclean, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. One of the reasons I like Chemiclean is that it's not complicated, difficult, or dangerous to use. There's a lot of stuff out there that we put in our aquariums that you've pretty much got to go back and get it out of the aquarium. You've got to do heavy water changes or run carbon filters after you've had it, various medications and stuff like that. The Chemiclean is not a medication as such. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but it oxidizes all of the stuff in the tank that you don't want in there. It doesn't bother plants, it doesn't bother algae, but it will kill off cyanobacteria and all of the sort of offwuchs we get that grows on the surface of everything, that sort of living biofilm, growth. If we've got something like a pleco in there that might scrape all that clean, that's fine. But if not, that stuff tends to build up and get thicker and thicker over time. And the Chemiclean's a good way to just get that out of there. It's a good way to just get your fish tank looking nice and cleaned up and better. So that's what we've done. And again, the reason I like it is because I'm a very lackadaisical fish keeper. And this tank in particular is out of sight, out of mind. And when I did my first treatment, you're supposed to put the air stone in and then put 1 scoop per 10 gallons of water. So this tank got 2 scoops. And then after 48 hours, you do a water change, and if necessary, you can do a second treatment. If not, your first treatment's done after 48 hours, and you do a water change, and you just get on with your life. But I have found over the years that doing that water change is only something you have to do if you really want to do the water change. I've often just do a 2-day treatment, and then I'll put another 2-day treatment in it, and then I'll do a water change. Or in this case, I did a treatment, and then after about a week, I did another treatment. And now it's probably been at least a week since I did that treatment, and I'm just now getting around to actually doing the water change and getting in there and getting the tank cleaned up. So one of the things I've noticed about this tank is where I used to have cyanobacteria growing all over everything, it's now bright and green, but I've got that hair algae. It doesn't come out real well on camera, but if you look really closely, you can see all of that Java fern is covered with like green, mossy looking fuzz. And it is not the Java moss. You can see I've got Java moss all over everything in this tank. It grows everywhere. I hate this stuff. It just gets in a tank and you can never get it out. And it just grows like a triffid, and eventually it'll just eat everything. So that is not Java moss. That is definitely green hair algae. And there you can get a much better look at it, that sort of fuzzy appearance on that leaf. But if you look at all that brown crud on the leaves, that's what I was talking about. That was black crud before I started this treatment. Now it's brown crud, and I don't know how easily it will come out of there, but we're going to find out here in just a moment. Don't mind that band-aid on my thumb. I don't have an open cut or anything. I just got a piece of something I'm trying to stop myself from picking at it, so I don't have to worry about putting an injury in the tank here. So that'll brush off fairly easily. That's all dead. It just needs to be sort of cleaned off. So what this tank really needs is a good offwuchs grazer. If I had a rubber lip pleco in this tank, or something similar, clown pleco, bristle nose, anything small like that would do really well in this tank. So this is all I'm going to do. We're going to get in here and we're going to do a water change, and I will give these leaves a good rub with my thumb. That's coming off kind of clumpy there, so I'm going to leave that alone right now, and I will wait till I've got the water siphon going, the gravel vac going, and I'll just draw that stuff right out of the tank as I wipe it off of the plants. So this should be a pretty visually significant before and after type water change. It's going to be a lot less crud in there, and I'll even try to thin out some of those plants a little bit. So there you go. There's your before, and there's your after. So I wound up doing quite a bit more work in there than I anticipated once I finally got in there and started doing the water change. The main thing I found was that the plants were not really attached to anything. And I had enough trouble with the Anubias on the right here as I got in there and I rubbed the leaves down and everything. The Anubias itself, the main rhizome, was not anywhere near the soil. It was just some trailing roots that were loosely sort of connecting it to the soil. And the same with the Java fern that was in there. It was just sort of pinched between the rocks and not really attached to anything yet. So as I got in there and I started pulling out all the masses of Java moss that were in there, and there was a lot of it, it more or less pulled the other plants free. And since they were free and loose anyway, I went ahead and just pulled the plants out completely, took them in the other room and gave them a good rinsing in the sink, and then brought them back in. And when I did that, I also removed some of the rocks that were in here. I used to have a little series of 2 bridges. I had a small rock going down onto this rock, and then I had another small rock going down onto that rock, and it created 2 really small cavities that I doubt fish could even swim through. But boy, did it have a lot of grunge and crud and mulm and everything stuffed up underneath of there. So what I wound up doing was a huge water change. I took about 50% of the water out. I vacked it as much as I could. The gravel vac kept getting clogged. You know, it's got that little sort of fish filter in the top to keep fish from getting sucked through. I've actually cut that down, so it is still there, but it's smaller and it lets larger chunks through. And even that was getting clogged up. I think largely because pieces of the Java moss were going up in there and just packing into it. So it was tough to get 50% of the water out. I had to keep cleaning out my siphon and going back in and siphoning more. It was a lot of stuff in there. So I filled the tank back up. I ran the filter while I was doing this. I changed the filter pad out a couple times just to try to pull more of the crud out of the water. And once it was refilled, I got in with the gravel vac again. And I let everything settle for a little while, and then I went in there and I tried to remove as much of the mulm and everything off the bottom as I could. And I honestly planned on getting in there again now that it's refilled and doing one more gravel vac, but it looks like a lot of it got picked up by the new filter pad I put in there, so I'm probably going to just switch out the pad and call it good for today. I feel like the fish have already been through enough. They've gotten about a 90% water change as it is. Their tank's been completely rescaped. It's all wide and bright now. And I don't know how much the water chemistry shifted while I did all that. I have no idea what the nitrates and all that stuff had gotten up to. So we put them through some stress today. Probably not a big deal, but I don't feel like doing any more since there's no need to, because the tank really does look a lot better. So we're going to call that good and say that's the after. I know that was quite a bit more work in there than I planned on doing. Probably took me about 40 minutes to get in there and do all that stuff, but I'm really happy with the results. And hopefully when my wife gets home from work tonight, she will be too when she sees it. So thanks for watching this one. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you real soon in the next one. Thanks again for watching.